Good morning, Aurora. Good morning, Aurora. Good morning, Aurora. And happy Friday. You are listening to and watching Good Morning, Aurora, the second largest city's first daily news podcast. And right when the camera came on, we were yakking it up and laughing it up, but we were talking about some interesting things. Aurora Film Society is doing great things, and we were shouting out some small businesses and everything too. But I'm happy to be joined today by my friends Dan, Jeremy Brooks, and Heidi Wetzel. How you guys feeling?
Very good.
We're doing all right today.
All right.
Getting very excited for the new year. And again, Film Society's moving to a new location and stuff. So it's just going to be, it's fun. It's really fun getting ready for all of that.
It's January. We're starting off the whole year, not just today, but this whole week has been very energetic. It's been ready. It's been hip. It's been prepared, enthusiastic, optimistic.
Yes.
I feel like 2025 is starting off real well. I really do.
I do too. It's funny. Was it last Thursday? Was that the 3rd? January 3rd? And people were like, that's the Mondayest Thursday of all time. Because everybody was just like, I'm back, but I'm not really here in spirit,
Yeah.
But this week I feel like things are, I feel anyway, a lot more energized. And I think a lot of other people are too.
Yeah,
So.
and a lot more settled after the holidays too,
indeed.
and ready
Absolutely.
to face everything that's going on and get to work.
Yeah, absolutely. So you are both on the board of the Aurora Film Society.
Yes.
Now, you guys have a lot going on, which we'll talk to the folks about, including coming to the venue, a change of screening locations. But for those who may be unfamiliar, tell us about the Aurora Film Society, how it started, and both of your roles and positions on the board.
Sure. Well, it started, the idea of it started in 2016, but 2018 was the first year it was up and running, which was actually a little before my time. So a few of the other board members had started it, and it's subscription-based, which by that I mean instead of subscribing to a magazine, you're subscribing to a movie, and you get a different movie every month. In this case, it's every third Wednesday of the month, and it's going to be at the venue, of course, every time. So that's what we've been doing.
Right.
And the idea is we're trying to find things that are maybe older films, foreign films, independent films, films that frankly just would fly under the radar of mainstream, and things that frankly would not be found around here, nor would you probably even know to look for them because they're that far outside,
Right.
So that's our purview. That's what we try to do. So that's what we've been doing since 2018, and this year's looking to be, I think, our most exciting year. So I don't know if I forget anything.
Well, starting in 2018, the screenings were held at the Aurora Regional Fire Museum on the second floor, where they have some, I think they use it for like seminars and things like that, but a little auditorium seating and a good place for a screen. But as we've grown, and then, we're on hiatus, kind of, for 2020, COVID hit.
Yep.
Right.
But we did an online screening. It was like a book club where everyone watched the movie and we came in for a movie discussion
Doing
afterwards.
what you can, absolutely.
Yeah, and we kept that up until 2023 because people were interested in it, but again, just a little too much. We wanted to focus on the screenings themselves.
Right.
And then I don't know, somebody was in conversation with somebody at the venue. You know how things go around here, and it seemed like just a perfect fit. And the fire museum said, that's a perfect fit for you guys, of course. And then we're moving on over. It's a bigger venue. The venue is a bigger venue. I know we joked about that earlier.
Yes.
So it's a little bit bigger. The screen, it's a nice stage presence. The seating with the tables and everything. So yeah, it's going to be a really nice vibe there.
Yes, and it'll also offer, and again, I know the room that you're talking about at the Fire Museum. It's got that angled seating. It is very nice, but since you guys have grown, the venue is really great for the customer experience as well. I mean, the place is big, it's huge, there's all kinds of different shows going on there in addition to what you guys are bringing there as well, so it's really cool. They got the bar.
They do.
No,
They
it's
do.
not a
They
not
do.
a
There's
bad
a cash
place.
bar as
Yep,
well.
Yep, not a bad place to hang out.
Absolutely. And that kind of frees us up to not have to think as much about concessions or those kind of things. Let them do things they're very good at and let us focus on the more cinematic stuff. And it's going to be a lot of fun. And, certainly the venue's no stranger to showing films. I mean, they show films there all the time. I think just back in, I think it was Halloween or thereabouts.
Halloween.
They showed, Romero's Night of the Living Dead there, which we were in attendance for because I love that film.
Yeah.
So.
And before that, they showed Treat You Fair.
Treat You Fair, yes, which is a great documentary about Maxwell Street in Chicago. Yeah.
Okay.
So, yeah.
A historic street. There's a, it's not all about Maxwell Street, but there's a great PBS documentary. The name escapes me, but it's talking about places like Maxwell Street at the turn of the 20th century. It was very amazing. So the first film to start off with is going to be The Crime Is Mine, a title I really like. Let's talk about The Crime Is Mine.
Sure. Well, it's a French film, and actually, I mean, it's probably more accurate to translate it as My Crime.
Okay.
But I guess when they were distributing it in the, internationally, they decided The Crime Is Mine, which is a little nicer, It
rolls off the tongue.
It
kind
does.
of,
The Crime Is Mine. There's a little internal rhyming there, which is nice. It's a very funny French, I would call it kind of a screwball or a sort of a farcical film, but it's a comedy, but certainly there's a murder mystery element as well.
Okay.
It's set in the 1930s, although it was actually made in 2023. Okay. So it's a recent film directed by a great, very prolific French director, Francois Ozon. But we saw it last year at a friend of ours' film festival, and we just loved it. And somebody on the board, I don't know if it was us or someone else on the board, said, well, what about this film?
Yeah.
And it just seemed like the perfect way to start because it's light, it's fun, it's basically safe for all audiences.
Right.
I mean, it is subtitled, but other than that, it's kind of a crowd pleaser.
Yeah, I like the experience of a good movie with subtitles. I really, it's never drawn me away from engaging with the film.
Yeah, indeed.
So The Crime Is Mine at the venue, 21 South Broadway, here in downtown Aurora. Screenings are every third Wednesday of the month. Doors open at 6:30 p.m. The film begins at 7 p.m. Good morning to you all if you're just joining us. Josh Myers is here. Good morning to you. Brent Jimenez, Tracy Duran, Laura Parra, Felipe Rocha, Daniel Calderon. Good morning to all of you guys. Good to see you. Happy Friday to you all as well. Okay, and then the next film that's coming up is My Man Godfrey.
Well, actually,
yes,
I want to go back to The Crime Is Mine a little bit because it leads into My Man Godfrey.
Oh, okay, yes.
Oh, okay.
Right? Yeah. So one of the things about The Crime Is Mine is even though it was filmed in 2023, again, and set in the 1930s, it is about two roommates, female. One is an aspiring actress. The other one is an attorney. And you can imagine that her, she's kind of dealing with sexism and a whole lot of things like that going on. And the actress is accused of murdering a producer. And that's The Crime Is Mine. That is the setup for the
Well, and I should say the producer got a little handsy, as they say.
Yes.
More than a little.
So there's a lot of feminist undertones in it. I mean, in a way, even though it's set in the 30s, it's a very modern movie.
Yeah.
And then it also has Isabelle Huppert, the famous French actress, in it. She does a part. And as somebody pointed out, it's well worth going just to see her silly, kind of fun performance.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Usually she plays very serious roles. I often joke that if you're watching an Isabelle Huppert movie, there's going to be something, she's going to do something kind of crazy and psychotic near the last reel. But in this case, she's playing very broadly, doing comedy, which I didn't know was something that was in her wheelhouse, but she's wonderful in it, too. Yeah. So.
But the reason I wanted to bring up The Crime Is Mine and going into My Man Godfrey is I believe, from 1935.
Yeah. 36,
Again, I was struck, because I rewatched it about 5 years ago, and I was really struck by, again, how modern it feels. So my major's in history, right? So I'm always interested in what was going on back then and how it relates to now. And one of the things about My Man Godfrey is it goes into some stuff that people don't realize was going on in the 30s, the whole forgotten man, the idea of the downtrodden, and how some people in the upper classes maybe took the forgotten man for sport instead of somebody who was a real human being who had emotions and feelings and things like that. And Godfrey is, he is the butler. He winds up being the butler for a wealthy family, but it goes into some of the class distinctions, and it's got a lot of heart in it too, as well as some really biting commentary on what was going on at the time. But it's a very funny movie.
I've always been a fan of film noir movies.
Yeah.
Even some of the more comedic ones like Grand Central Murder and different ones like that.
Sure.
With Van Helsing. But you're right. Those movies had very, either machismo or like the language. Everybody's a dame and stuff like that too. And what I do like about films like The Crime Is Mine and what we're talking about is that, using our creative freedom today to highlight that, perhaps reverse some of that stuff, that really goes into the power of filmmaking, producers, directors, and the kind of ideas they have in creating those. So I like to see some of those old ways combated with new creative thoughts and thinking and still using movies and film to make the new points. I think it's very interesting. Yeah,
there is still a lot of there's still a place for that stuff. I mean, I was just reading an interesting article the other day about what they call neo-noir, which was basically late 60s on. So there was that period where 30s into the post-war era, and then there's a period where they're like, okay, well, that's about the end of it. And then pretty soon it comes back because these stories have this timeless appeal. I think Roger Ebert once said that you can tell it's a film noir because it's about a good man who indulges in a little bit of a vice and hell opens up beneath his feet.
It all goes wrong.
It all goes wrong. But I mean, those stories are stories we can identify with, especially in the economic times we're in now, I think,
Yes.
But with my man Godfrey, that's not a film noir.
Right. Of course.
It's very much a comedy again, but it's making a lot of really good commentary. And did it win Best Picture? I know it was nominated for Best Picture and several of the Best Actor and Actress nominations for that year. It was very highly regarded. And Godfrey's a kind character. That's one of the things I really like about that movie is that, he's a very nice person who's changing people's opinions just by being his kind self.
Right.
Yes, he's an unassumingly wise person who, it's a bit like Ted Lasso, actually. Honestly, now that I think about it, there is a bit of that, where this person is just has this relentlessly kind point of view, and it starts to rub off on everybody.
And that also kind of fell into the category of a movie a lot of people have heard of, but maybe have never seen. And again, because of all of its Oscar nominations and stuff, it was seminal in movie history.
Yeah, a movie that everybody has heard of, but I've never seen, and this may be sad, but I've never watched Good Will Hunting.
Oh, okay.
Me either. I've only seen parts of it because of the ages my kids were at the time. But I've never seen the whole movie. I gotta watch
that movie. I know it's a classic. I know that people love that movie. I've lost friends because I haven't seen it. Like, I'm out of here. Like,
oh, really? They were like, well, I think we're done here now.
But no, I'm glad
I'll see
you
myself out.
But I'm glad you said that because last year we started asking a lot of our subscribers to the Film Society and just friends in general, name a movie that you know a lot about or you think you should have seen but never did. And a lot of people came up with Casablanca. Now we have an assumption that everybody's seen it. But no, they haven't. My daughter-in-law just saw Die Hard for the first time this past Christmas. Yes.
It's a great movie.
Yes, it is.
It's one of my favorite films, and watching it again after a few years, I was like, this is still an incredibly tight, well-made film with a lot of heart.
Yes, it is.
I'm still struck at how good it is after all this time. So.
Yes.
But yeah, I mean, you never know. I mean, people would say Casablanca or Citizen Kane or I don't know, Treasure of Sierra Madre or something like that. And they would feel kind of sheepish when we asked, because we kind of asked everybody sort of surreptitiously. We didn't get everybody in a room and go, okay, everybody, but we would just kind of ask. We're like, so what's something you'd like to see, but you never got to, but it's a classic, and it's something you ought to check out at some point, And it was interesting, some of the responses we got.
But this is also part of our thought process when we're nominating movies every year for the slate that I think we started with 30 movies that were nominated this year by our board and various subscribers.
Yeah, that sounds right. Yeah, it was a little over 30, you're right. Yes, that's correct.
And we narrowed those down to 19, and then we had our subscribers vote on 12 of those 19.
Okay, all right. Loving the democracy within the Aurora Film Society. Definitely loving it. 9:16 is the time. Julia Lindberg, how you like them apples? Norma Peterson, good morning to you. And Felipe, good morning to you as well. Okay, so then this is the flyer here,
Yes.
you guys. You guys will be seeing this around. And also, once again, the venue here in downtown Aurora, 21 South Broadway, right? It's adjacent to Mundy Park.
Indeed.
Is definitely a place. And as this calendar goes on, so on March 19th, songs my brothers taught me. There's a long list of great films coming up. So this is going to be really great. How can people learn more about the Aurora Film Society?
Sure. Well, they can go to aurorafilmsociety.org, where one of the first things they'll see when they get there is a recent post we made about this event that's coming up on the 15th. And from there, you can click on it. You can click on something to find out a synopsis for the film. You can click if you would like to RSVP, although it's not essential that you do that. But yeah, so we're just hoping to get as many people out as we can, because this film, The Crime Is Mine, is going to be free. Absolutely free of charge. No admission, anyone. So gratis. Anyway, trying to think of other words. Anyway, but other phrases. So that's, and it's kind of our way of kicking off the new year and kicking off the new place we're going to be at, our grand relocation event, as we've been calling it.
Right.
So we would love to see as many people come out as possible. Even if you're not a fan of films, like I said, this is a very accessible, fun movie. And I think, as I've said to you many times before on the show and elsewhere, there is a real power in the community of watching films together. There's a personal, and I would even say spiritual, component to it, to that kind of community. It's not the only way you can get that, but it's a way that I like. And sometimes when you're with a lot of people around here, we all kind of know each other a little bit already. It's perfect, you know?
Yeah.
Well, it is. And I'm just thinking recently, Nightmare Before Christmas was out in
Man,
theaters.
great movie.
And I just went
That's
to go
another
see it
one.
on a Saturday afternoon, and there were kids behind me, and listening to them giggle and gasp. I mean, again, the communal, it just heightened the whole aspect of why we go see movies. Plus, they are empathy creating machines.
Absolutely.
They're shortcuts. When we were talking before, we referenced 2 movies, just in general conversation. Or this morning when I woke up and I looked at you and I groaned, I said, oh, it's just a Shaun of the Dead kind of morning. I feel like I'm the opening credits. But there's a lot of shortcuts. Or my daughter-in-law who saw Die Hard and said, oh, I get the memes now. We use movies so much in our lives every day just to kind of shortcut and bring up deeper things.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, they are the mythologies and the idioms of our times.
I agree.
You know?
There is a, speaking of, and thinking about Die Hard at the moment, because you're right, there's so many memes and different references that are going on out there. And, Die Hard is, I was listening to Q101 had a, something they're talking about your best Christmas movies, and Die Hard is always making the list. And now over the years, those discussions have come where it's like, is this a Christmas movie or is it not? Is this a Halloween movie? There is a movie that I feel it's, people know this movie, they love this movie, but I think it needs to be categorized as a holiday movie. And specifically, I like to see if we remember what holiday it was that they were planes, trains, and automobile.
Oh, yes.
Now, that wasn't a Christmas movie.
No, it's not.
They were trying to get back for Thanksgiving.
That's right. To me,
That movie is it's enough to make you weep, especially when we found out that John Candy really didn't have a...
I remember a couple years ago, the Paramount showed it, and me and my friend, sitting next to each other, we're just like, we're both, feeling it, feeling that catharsis, and it's just such a beautiful film, and it's of course riotously funny too.
Yes,
there's parts where you're like, it's just ridiculous, however the top it is.
Steve
so
Martin
funny.
and John Candy, was just a perfect combination. It really was. But I think that's a movie that a lot of people have heard. I know a lot of people haven't seen that movie either, so it is a popular movie. A lot of people know about it, but there's, as we talked about in the earlier part of this conversation a few minutes ago, there's a lot of people who have not seen it. Can't wait for that to be another dollar movie at the Paramount, man. Please, please. When was the last time it played? Please bring it back.
I know it. Well, yeah. I mean, it was a couple years ago when I saw it. You know. So.
Now more of these. So we'll talk about this flyer.
Sure.
So this flyer, guys, this is it right here that you guys see. 4/16, The Long Good Friday. 5/21, Purple Noon. Salt of the Earth, and then there's a movie that's going to be playing in November, Gallipoli.
Yes.
Gallipoli. Let's talk about Gallipoli.
Sure. I'm not really doing it any favors to say it's one of the saddest films ever made, but it's about a very, very sad event, so it's true to reality. Gallipoli was a disastrous campaign featuring largely Anzac Australian soldiers under the command actually of the time of Winston Churchill. This is well before he became
He was First Lord of the Admiralty. Then.
Yes.
Oh!
Nice. I know. For those of you at home, we're all big huggers here. We're a hugging kind of family.
And on our history too, boy.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
Amazing.
But Gallipoli was interesting because it has to do with how sad, how tragic a very simple lack of communication can lead to real tragedy.
Yep.
So it has to do with two young men who are in Australia during the beginning of World War I who sign up. And one of them is actually played by Mel Gibson before he became a star. And it shows kind of their training and that sort of thing. But it's a absolutely stunning film. But it is kind of one of our sadder films. One of the saddest films I think ever made, actually.
Wow.
But it is lovely. Yeah.
Okay. Definitely gotta check it out. I know that you mentioned that you are your major was in history.
Yes.
Correct. Yeah. I love history. I love World War I history, particularly. So it's very interested about that. It was a Turkish victory during World War I.
Yes.
And at the time, it ended Winston Churchill's prospects at the moment, but then he was the man for the job of leading Britain in World War II.
Yeah.
It's fascinating history. It really is.
Well, yeah,
923 is the time.
Churchill is such a fascinating guy because in times of war, he could be extremely inspiring and important and visionary. And in times of peace, not so much.
Right.
He did not, when he was voted back in, was he voted out in 47?
He was voted out after the war, yes,
Right.
to the shock of the world.
Yeah,
but
they were like, "You've got this living legend here," and they're like, "Yeah, but
right.
yeah, it's a bit like how Russians feel about Gorbachev, where we look at Gorbachev and we're like, Gorbachev, what an extraordinary statesman. I mean, I personally think that man averted nuclear war more than probably any one individual because of the way he was able to be vulnerable at a time when it was not considered kosher to be a Soviet premier.
Right.
But yeah, it is interesting.
Yes.
But no, I'm thinking getting back to history, Salt of the Earth.
Oh,
I
yes.
saw that in a labor history class.
Yeah.
Now, that was not my recommendation. That actually came from one of our subscribers. But that film, it's a 1956 film that was done by blacklisted directors and producers and literally blacklisted in the United States. No theater would show it because it's about Mexican mine workers in New Mexico who are organizing a strike. And because the Taft-Hartley Act has just come in and the workers cannot be on the strike lines, their wives go out to the strike lines. Wow. And it's an amazing, amazing movie.
All these films that you guys are hearing about, the Aurora Film Society will be screening these every third Wednesday of the month at the venue here in downtown Aurora. Doors open at 6:30 p.m. The films begin at 7 p.m. This is the complete calendar for the entire year. We'll be happy to share this on our social media as well.
We've been putting them up all over town, in the downtown area. So hopefully people will see them all over the place and they'll get sick of them.
Absolutely.
That's how you get in people's minds.
Good morning to you, Freddie, my dear friend Alfredo Nieves, Josue Pais. Good morning to you.
Josue.
Jasmine, good morning. Tracy Duran is here. She says, have you shown the movie Children on Their Birthdays? This was filmed in Aurora. How about it? Theodosia Hatter, good morning. Sarah Ayala.
Well, that's a great question. Believe it or not, I have not seen that film, but I am familiar with Truman Capote's short story. It's a brilliant short story. primarily he was really a short story writer, I would say, or a novella writer. But I have not seen that, and I would be interested, especially if we know people in the area who are involved in any way. You know?
Yeah.
But this brings to something that I wanted to mention. We are really interested in what movies the people of Aurora want to see, or what they think would be a good movie that nobody else has seen, or, you know, so, hey, if you have our website, go to our website. We have our info email on there, and send us any suggestions, because we're really curious, because, I mean, you know, we're a board of 7 people. We all have our own opinions and ideas, and we'd like to hear what the outside, you know, what people outside of us want to hear.
Well, you guys heard that right there. That's your invitation to let your ideas be known about the kind of films that you would like to see or you think other people should see. You know, absolutely. I think that's really cool. Paper Moon, The Outfit, The Third Man, and Internal Affairs were the other movies that I did not mention. But once again, this calendar will be shared, and we'll be happy to share this on our social media as well. Cool. Children on Their Birthdays is on YouTube if you'd like to take a look at it and see if it'd be a good one to show. Thank you, Tracy.
Sure.
I appreciate that
I'll
very
into
much.
it,
Thanks.
With the last few minutes that we got, you know, I kind of want to go back to how we started here and ask you both, you know, let's look a few months ahead. What does the rest of 2025 look like? Not just with our films and our screening in the Aurora Film Society, but personally and as a city. How are we feeling? What are we looking forward to?
Oh, wow. Personally and as a city, that's a tough one.
I think there's a real need for rebuilding community. I
Yes.
think that during COVID, people were hungry. They didn't realize how much they'd missed other people. And we see that with the amount of people who are coming out more. And I think that this is just a really good time to tap into people's desires to have not just one of the nice things about films is you come out to see a movie and you might wind up in a meaningful conversation.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
You know, when
Yep.
we're talking
Yep.
about the meanings of the films or the meanings of things. And I think that there's a real hunger to get down to the meaning of things. And if you just want to come out and have fun and watch a movie, you can do that too.
Absolutely. Yeah, I should mention that we do a Q&A after each of these films. It's very informal, and it can run the gamut from what do you think the symbolism was for featuring that alligator in that one scene,
Right.
and it can go from that to now that guy, that's his sister that was at the end, right? So it can be anything, and there's no dumb questions. We just love to chat about movies. I do. I love chatting about movies.
And I mean, I just focused on movies, but come on out to First Fridays. We have
Absolutely.
great conversations at First Friday. There's sometimes we just don't even leave McCarty Mills because we're just talking to people
Good
as
place.
they
That's
come
the
in.
spot too,
Right.
McCarty Mills.
Or you go into a
McCarty.
gallery, you know, and you wind up talking to somebody about the
Mills.
painting that you're looking at.
Absolutely.
And just there's so much art and there's so many ways to connect in Aurora. And I think a lot of people just aren't aware of how many ways there are.
Yeah. Well, we all hang at like-minded spots too, and it's interesting because I've met a lot of new friends at Tavern on Broadway.
Very
From
nice.
going out, hanging out, and different things like that. The night of the Winter Lights Parade.
Sure.
Yep.
Went to Tavern after that. Met some cool peeps who were just sitting at the next table. Brought the the 3 tops right there by the front.
Oh yeah, yeah. of
Pushed
course.
the 3 tops together, and
Yeah.
it was a good time. And actually, that's the night I saw you guys because I was there with I was talking to Sergeant Carter.
Oh,
Right.
that's right.
And we
Yes,
were
that's
headed
right.
out to the riverfront
Yep.
to see a play.
Oh, that's
Because
right.
again, a lot of really good stuff going on.
See?
Yep.
Yes.
And we were just at Tavern on Wednesday for trivia and
right.
wound up chatting with the person who's doing the set design for the Paramount.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome
yeah,
stuff.
it's just
Yes.
really amazing.
So it is in some ways it's a big city, but it's also a very small city in a lot of ways,
Right.
which I like that about Aurora.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, 9:30 is the time. I hope that all of you have a positive, safe, happy, and prosperous weekend. Have a great next week. Have a great rest of the month. And let's all continue to have a collective good rest of this year. Continue to have a happy new year. Good Morning Aurora will return next week, and we'll be back in the studio on Tuesday. We've got a lot of great things to show you guys, and keep having some fun out there in the city and making us all proud. Take care of yourself and each other.
Being a local business in Chicago, we've always worked with community banks, but over time, those smaller banks started getting acquired by larger national footprint banks. It became time to work with Wintrust to meet our needs without having to have that big bank feel.
Wintrust understood what they wanted to accomplish, and they've increased in size 5 times over.
As we continue to grow, we're going to keep needing to borrow, so I'm sure they're going to love that.
Serving their needs. It's really the foundation of what Wintrust commercial banking is all about.